Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshaar, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender, originator license number 117266. Now, here's your host, Chris Reshaar.
Good morning. Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, as you've heard in the intro here, Chris Reshaar, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. And we're back for another week of Reshair Radio. We hope that you've listened before and you're back again. But if you're not and you've never listened, we're going to tell you a little bit about what our show is here. I am a licensed loan officer. I work with Movement Mortgage. Many people are familiar with Movement. It's kind of a Charlotte-based company, although there's a couple of areas that we come out of. We're technically in the South Carolina area now, but we do mortgage lending, and I talk about mortgage lending each and every week as I bring in special guests and expert contributors. But really what I wanted to share with you is, as a licensed loan officer, I touch people's lives financially, but I really feel like I had a great opportunity in my career to help people in lots of facets of their lives, and that's helping them with other financial decisions. So what I do is I bring in expert contributors, people that are in our local community here in the Carolinas that can bring in topics that are critical, like life insurance or 401k or homeowners insurance or home inspections or even real estate and mortgage knowledge. We bring that expertise through our contributors and bring in guests as well each and every week. And the goal is to excite, educate, and empower Charlottesans to really make sound financial decisions. And hopefully someone out there one day will say, I heard that on Reshair, and as a result, I made a smarter, better decision for my family. So that is our goal each and every week. So we're glad to be back for another week. And we've got some exciting stuff that we're going to be talking about here today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our expert contributor, Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina. Preston, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris.
So Preston's been on the show for, 6, 8, 9 months, maybe even longer now. It's hard to keep up. But first of all, thank you for your sponsorship of Reshair Radio, but you bring such great information to our show each and every week, and it really ties with the real estate industry and even the mortgage business in terms of what we do to help people. But tell our listeners a little bit about you and Home Inspection Carolinas and what you offer our community.
Okay, sure. Well, I've been a home inspector here in the Charlotte area for a little over 20 years. We do home inspections, termite inspections, radon. We can test for mold. It's just that, like you said, a home is the biggest investment of most people's lives. And, you don't want to get into that home and have an unexpected expense. So it's just to help the consumer make an educated decision to buy. There's no perfect home, but just, so that you can get a true picture of what you're looking at. Most things can be fixed. You just got to, make your calculations and make sure everything's going to work, and, right school, right neighborhood, a couple of repairs and you're good to go. But you don't want to be surprised with those repairs, I guess, is the thing. That's our job.
That's that's the goal of what your company does, is helping people understand before I invest $100,000, $200,000, $1 million. It doesn't matter what the price point is there going to be risks associated with purchasing this home?
Yeah, I mean, my wife would never rent a hotel room without checking out the reviews. So why would you make the biggest purchase?
My wife does that too. There's bed bugs. I'm worried you can't stay there.
Without checking it out a little bit. And that's our job, to check it out.
Awesome. Well, as always, is glad to have you back on the show. And appreciate your support. I'd also like to introduce a special guest that we have here in the studio, Rob Wachter with the Wachter team. Or Wachter Group. Did I say that right?
You said that correctly.
Okay, said it right. I had to double check myself. But agent with Keller Williams, and you have, I believe, a team. So why don't you tell our listeners here this morning a little bit about who you are, what your credentials are as a realtor.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you inviting me in here. I've been in the business for about 12 years and licensed in both North and South Carolina. 4 years ago, I went and got my designation as what's called an SRES, or a Seniors Real Estate Specialist. So that's one of the big focuses that my team focuses on, serving people in the senior community. I also serve on the Multiple Listing Service Advisory Committee. I've been 12 years in the business.
The MLSAC.
Exactly.
Is that what they call that?
We're the people that
we have to use the acronyms, right? Because our listeners love it. Let me tell you.
We tell the MLS how to put the boxes up and what data goes in what order as it flows out to the community, so people can easier look for houses with the features that they want.
Right. So if you're listening and you don't know what MLS is, that's basically the database of homes that realtors tap into when they list your home for sale or when you go to look for a home. And so it's a common term we use all the time here in for those of us in the profession. But that database being on the advisory board, so you're really helping manage that data for the consumer so they can make good decisions on good data.
Exactly. We're trying to simplify it and make it more user-friendly, yet disclosing the information more thoroughly.
Could you tell them to disclose the difference between condo and townhome? That's just a little side note. Sorry, listeners.
I'll bring that up.
There is a difference. They shouldn't be listed under the same / category. But anyway, I digress. So,
we'll get there.
Rob, thank you for sharing your credentials. So why don't we go into a little bit about, did you mention about where you're licensed and where your team operates?
Yeah, we operate in the greater Charlotte area and probably the 5 surrounding counties. And, where our office is out of the university area. But as with most agents, most of our team's offices are in the back of their cars.
Right,
they're
or
out
in their
the field,
homes. Or
in their homes. They're out in the field serving clients wherever the clients need it.
Cool. So you're covering the Charlotte area.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us a little bit, how did you get started in this business? Nobody ever seems to graduate from high school and say, I want to be a realtor. So I always like to hear that. Or a home inspector.
Or
right.
mortgage.
That's right. Or you got to sell cars first before mortgage, by the way.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. We're definitely all in second careers. I was actually in retail banking for the first 15 years of my career, and I was a branch manager, a financial advisor, did some mortgages, did some home equity lending. And as anybody that knows the banking industry here in Charlotte knows, the mergers happen occasionally. So
A couple times.
as I tell people, I found myself constantly climbing the corporate ladder only to find it leaning against the wrong building.
Right.
And after enough tries at that, I decided that really needed to go work for someone that I could count on not laying me off. And I was the only one that I could think of. So got into real estate. It was a natural fit because I'd been doing the financing for it for years and have never looked back. And it's been a great ride. The market's had its ups and it's had its downs, and I've enjoyed helping people through all of that.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. I don't know if most people know that. If they learned anything from me today, did they know that one of the mergers that's most popular banks that people know about is Fifth Third, because a bank on Fifth Street and a bank on Third Street merged and they became Fifth Third Bank.
I did not know that.
Did you know that? So there you go.
I did not know that.
Most people. So if anybody can say they learned anything on Reshair Radio today, let's hope that's the one thing they grab, right?
The first time I saw that, I was like, that's
Meaningless, but yes, important.
that's an improper fraction.
Exactly. Every time I see that, I'm like, what? Why isn't 3/5? Exactly. But anyway, so let's go into Rob real quick. I'd love for you to tell our listeners what you like most about being a realtor.
Sure. Being a realtor has been really fulfilling for me, and there's, of course, the obvious, the American dream, helping people find their homes. Mm-hmm. But really what I like the most is helping protect people through the transaction. There are so many people involved, so many companies involved, so many negotiations involved. Mm-hmm. There's so many opportunities for people to be taken advantage of, either intentionally or by someone not knowing what they're doing well enough.
Right.
So we have a comprehensive team that has different people and components to manage different parts of it, so that we can make sure that if you're making that largest investment of your life, that some little thing doesn't go wrong, doesn't compromise the integrity of your investment.
Right.
Got it. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio, your show host here on ESPN 730. And we've got Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolinas that we're talking with, as well as Rob Wachter, realtor from KW, but you've got your own team, the Wachter Group. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I got it. Okay. I think I got it now. But nonetheless, Rob, I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned one of your designations is working with seniors, and I'm sure that you work with really all clients, first-time buyers all the way up to the senior market. Is that right?
That's correct.
But really, the reason why I invited you to be on our show today, we have a realtor friend that we have in common who said, Rob would be a great person to connect with. He knows a lot about the senior market, and maybe he would be a good guest on your show. And I said, we had worked together in the past before, but we don't know each other that well, and here we sit, right? But I wanted you to maybe intro our listeners before we head to the first break. Tell us a little bit about what you see is going on in the senior market, and maybe why you've chosen to focus a segment of what you do, not because this is not all that you do. But
Sure.
Why is this a niche where a lot of realtors don't have?
Absolutely. There's a number of obvious reasons. The first and foremost is the baby boomer generation is aging, and the number of people turning retirement age every day is growing rapidly. So the entire landscape of our economy, of our real estate market is changing.
Which is true. 10,000 per day, baby boomers
Absolutely.
turning age 62.
So when I thought about that when I was doing real estate, and I ended up moving my dad down here from New York and helping him sell his house there and find a place to live here, and realized just how complex that process was, just how many different decisions had to be made about housing, whether there's a healthcare component, how much money to put down, how long a term to commit to live somewhere. And I realized that the whole segment of the population has very little guidance on that. Every place has its own expert, but there's not an expert to help someone make a global decision.
A comprehensive decision.
So I wanted to get into that market, and also realized there was just tremendous number of people taking advantage of one of the most vulnerable segments of the population. Seniors are typically more trusting, a little bit less technology savvy, and frankly, are used to doing business on a handshake where you could trust the person.
Right.
And there is just a lot of people that will take advantage of that. And it's my mission to get in front of that, to help people protect themselves from those, to help protect them from those risks and those people that would take advantage of them. Exactly. So,
Charlatans.
I really look at it as, the reason I have the opportunity that I have in this business is because those that came before me built the economy that we're living in. So I think it's crucial for us to be able to treat that population with the respect that it deserves.
Yeah. We see a lot of that too, Rob. We see a lot of, contractors that are opportunistic, let's say, and, they'll try to use fear to make people think they have a lot bigger problem than they really do. And, once they scare them, it's just, there's some stuff that goes on that I'm glad that I can come in and say, that's not right. That's not right.
Well, and that could be a whole show in itself, sounds like. So,
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you sort of sharing that intro, and I like that you bring some passion to it because you experienced it with your own dad's situation, right? So, so what I'd like to kind of do is we're going to take a quick break here for commercial, but just remind our listener that we're really going to be focusing this next segment on seniors and really how we can focus on seniors, whether it's helping them transition into selling a home or transition into buying a new home, because there's a whole set of different elements that come into play working with this population. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with another round of Reshair Radio.
Did you know it has been reported that an estimated 80% of Americans have credit inaccuracies on their credit reports? Most people that have either inaccuracies or existing items that can be negotiated or adjusted do not know what their best score could be until they have found a new home, or buying a new car, or applying for a credit card. Then it's too late, and they have to accept a higher interest rate or lose the opportunity altogether. The time to work on improving your credit score is before you need it. Whether you have a 440, 640, or even a 740 FICO score, there is always room for improvement. The National Credit Care Team is comprised of individuals dedicated to helping the millions of consumers plagued by credit inaccuracies, errors, and fraud. It is our mission to help inform consumers and alleviate the stress of working with creditors and credit bureaus. Together, we can maximize your scores to get the best interest rates possible and save you money. Call now, 303-747-6390. That's 303-747-6390. Or visit us at www.nationalcreditcare.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar here, licensed loan officer with Movement Mortgage. We, each and every week, Reshair Radio brings in special guests and expert contributors, and we were just sort of introing our first segment. We've got Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolina and Rob Wachter from the Wachter Group, Keller Williams. And we're talking this morning a little bit about the senior market. And Rob, you did a really nice intro as to how you sort of got focused as sort of a segment of what you do as a realtor in working with seniors. And so we spent a little bit of time sort of preparing for today's show. And what we wanted to first do is intro the concept is really a special focus on seniors, helping them through selling. That is, anybody that has maybe an aging parent, or even yourself, if you need some extra assistance and you are in that senior segment, this is going to be a really good first show for you to listen to, maybe hit the record button, whatever it might be, or listen back on our podcast on the ESPN website. But we really want to be able to share some of this information with you, and hopefully you can glean some good stuff. And Rob, as like you said, your passion is to help this segment, so hopefully that will be achieved.
Absolutely.
So what I'd like to do is sort of get the juices flowing here and really identify what is the first step that you and your team do when you're considering working with a senior that needs to sell their home.
Sure. And to be clear, Chris, the steps in the process are not very different from any person of any age, but the way they are done and the timing in which they're done is what's so different.
Okay.
So, for example, obviously one of the first steps with working with someone that's planning to move, make the next big step in their life, is to sit down with them and take a look at their house and give them an initial market analysis, because that information is what they need to know in order to help them decide what they can do next. With the average 35-year-old, that happens about 3 days before they want to put the house up for sale. With the average senior, we're doing that 6 to 9, sometimes 12 months before they're really ready to make that move.
Tell us why that's the case.
Because they need more time to clean out the house, pack things up, get stuff out to their kids, make little repairs to the house, and most importantly, make a financial decision for their next step without stress and anxiety of time pressure. And that is really crucial, because the biggest mistakes get made when they're rushed.
Right.
So we encourage people to begin this process very early on.
Right. So it might be that you're selling in the next year or two. It wouldn't be too early for someone to talk with you.
Absolutely. That would be honestly the ideal time, so that we could help people through the entire process instead of just helping them, rush at the last moment.
Perfect. What are the other components of the in-house free consultation you mentioned?
Sure. And of course, the second thing we do is we sit and we determine what their future plans and goals are. Are they looking to downsize simply to have a smaller house? Are they looking to save money on their payment? Are they looking to go somewhere that's their forever home next? Or are they just looking to go somewhere where they can have a little more fun in a lifestyle community with people that are like them? Mm-hmm. And those things are all crucial in making this decision. And it's a lot more than just putting a sign in the yard and putting it onto that MLS we talked about. It's about helping these people get where they want to go the way they need to get there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, what I know that when you go out and you do that initial consultation, you probably spend some time also looking at the home. So how do you help them through that process?
Absolutely. One of the things that we have, one of the resources we have on our team is a dedicated project manager. And he is a licensed home remodeling consultant. And what that means is we bring him to a home to give a client some ideas and opinions on what can be fixed or what might be able to be improved in order to maximize the value of the house that they get.
Cool. That's great.
And what's really important is, I'd say more often than not, what we get out of that is his recommendation not to spend money, or to spend the least amount of money possible. Whereas a lot of folks will go in there and say, we need to put granite in this kitchen, and if you redo this bathroom, and you'll make $25,000 more when you sell the house, realizing that will cost them $20,000.
Yeah.
And boy, is there enough return on investment there to have that make sense?
To take that risk.
Sure.
Exactly. So we try to err on the side of risk, and whenever there are repairs working for us, this team member helps our clients out.
All right. So one of the steps during that consultation is really to determine the repairs or if renovations need to be done.
Exactly.
Perfect. Anything else in that initial step here, as we're talking again about a special focus on seniors helping you through selling your home?
And really the last thing to do is sit down and summarize the unique issues in that particular family. Is this a situation where there's multi-generational decision-making going on? Should we be consulting with children or parents or brothers or siblings? Talk about healthcare issues. It's important to know the health of the client and what they're doing next, so that we can help them if anything unexpected
Right, because they
comes
may
up.
not even be able to lift boxes.
Exactly.
Right, so then maybe we need to hire or bring somebody in that can help them with that. So
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I am your show host, Chris Reshatar, and we're here in the studio with Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolinas, an expert contributor, and Rob Wachter from the Wachter Group. And we're really we're talking about a special focus on seniors here this morning. And we're really, this component in this segment, we're really helping them understand the process of selling their home, which can be very different, if you mentioned, in terms of how you handle it. Not that selling is any different based on age. But Rob, you were mentioning earlier that the steps might be a little bit different when you're working with a senior. So let's go into sort of step 2. What would be the next thing after the free consultation and you've sort of set the stage for potentially selling?
Sure. The second step would be actually doing any of those repairs or improvements that might need to be done to the house. And one of the things our project manager will do is he'll give the client 2 options. Either he will be glad to do the work, depending on the estimate and the scope, or he will act as their go-between, the contractor, so to speak, to arrange estimates, to vet the people that are going to be working on the house, and to make sure that they have been accountable for the results in the house, so that if somebody comes and does the work, that it gets done. So the seniors that are getting ready to sell don't have to worry about arguing with the contractor, or that's not done right. Please finish that.
Well, and
that's cool.
What he's doing is very smart, because typically the way it happens is the home inspector comes in for the buyer, they find problems, you just have to get whoever you can fix, rush charges, whoever's available. But you're vetting the people, you're getting competitive bids, so you can when you got time, like you said, you're giving more time, you're going to get the best deal, everybody's going to be more comfortable, and you're also taking that ability for that buyer to get them down on their price in lieu of repairs too.
Perfect. So I'm going to jump in here real quick. If there's anybody out there that's listening and thinking, my family needs some help in the senior market, we could really benefit from Rob and his team, et cetera. Anyone here in the studio services, let me give you my number real quick. That's 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. All right, Rob. So help us here with sort of the next step.
Sure. The next step, once any repairs are done, would be a professional staging consultation. These are all things that we include in our services. So these are not extra costs that we bill out. Essentially, we'll send a stager to the house to then look at the decoration, the spacing, the furniture, and help them arrange the house in a way that will be most attractive to selling it. It'll look best in pictures online, and it will look best to the people walking through the house.
You're trying to go in with the buyer's mindset.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's several different levels that we can do this at, depending on the client. Full staging would be when someone's moved out, and we can actually bring furniture and things in if that warrants it. Most of the time, what we do is just soft staging. It's helping people roll that rug up, move that picture to the other wall, take that chair out, and let's go ahead and sell that on Craigslist now, because it makes the house look bigger.
That dog's playing poker picture, you got to put that in the
That
garage.
one seems to come up a lot.
Exactly. And in certain cases, what we do is what's called virtual staging. Virtual staging is simply taking photos of the house that's empty and virtually placing some furniture and some artwork and things in there to make it look like a lived-in home.
Oh, that's cool. I had never heard of that.
And again, with time, these are all things that we will cater to meet the need of the particular client.
Perfect. All right. Step number 4, tap into additional support teams. So let's talk a little bit about that. What kinds of additional support could come up when you're working with the senior population?
Sure. With seniors, probably the number one thing that comes up is helping get rid of, repurpose their stuff. A lot of folks we work with have been in their house 25, 30, 40 years, and they have just been collecting things, saving it for their kids. This is when they find out that their kids don't want their stuff. And now they have to figure out, what do I do with this? Because there's a yard sale, sure, it can make it go away, but who knows when there's that diamond in the rough.
It's a wagon wheel coffee table.
I had to say, my mom brings me a carload of stuff every time she goes down. We're like,
It's Mother's Day.
thanks, Mom.
It's Mother's Day.
Yeah, I know.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Maybe we shouldn't air this one.
Yeah.
Mother's Day. Sorry about that, Mom.
Well,
Cool.
And of course, so the auction people that we work with, or the estate sale people that we've vetted and we've worked with carefully, do a great job at making sure they do the right thing for the clients and get the best value for these things, and then help them clean out whatever junk is left that they don't want.
I go inspect some houses that Rob didn't do a consultation with, and it looks like a Cracker Barrel exploded up in there. And it's like all these little knickknacks everywhere. Like, you guys really should have hired Rob to stage this thing.
Well, hey, that's just how some of those folks live. That's where they're at. So, well, I know one of the additional service providers on your list, Rob, is really actually having the seller or senior that we're talking about consider a pre-inspection with a home inspector like Preston.
Hey.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we recommend, especially when there is any nervousness about price or negotiation. Having that pre-inspection is absolutely crucial, because one of the worst things that can happen to a senior in a transaction is when they get a contract and an inspection uncovers a problem, and then it creates negotiation in the middle of the most stressful part of their entire life. Absolutely. 35 years, they're packed up, they've put money down on the next house, they're ready to go, and boom, there's a $5,000 bill. Not that they couldn't manage that, but knowing about that earlier on eliminates that issue. Yeah. So we use Preston's inspectors all the time, and they come out and they basically let us know whether there's a concern that's big or is a concern's little, and the seller can either fix it or let someone know that there's an issue, and we'll adjust the price.
Put the cards on the table right away.
You know,
and like that $5,000 issue you were talking about, if they do it on the front end, they might get competitive prices. They might get it for $3,800. And you know what I've unfortunately seen on the back end, they'll take that $5,000, they'll bring a contractor in that's their buddy, say $7,500. And we'll take the price off the price of the house. And like you said, everybody's already made their calculations, and it's just unfair. So it eliminates that possibility of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's like a spike or elevation in anxiety right in the middle of the transaction when you thought things were kind of moving smooth, right?
Yeah. What Gary Keller calls it, fireproofing the deal?
Fireproofing the deal. Yep, that's right. So perfect. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Again, you're listening to Reshair Radio. We've got Preston here and Rob in the studio. If you've heard anything that you like, give us a shout at 704-277-4463, or shoot me a text message saying I need Preston or I need Rob, and I'll be happy to connect you with their services at the beginning of the week. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
When choosing an insurance agency, you want a company you can trust. We are an independent insurance agency that can protect your personal assets, including your home, your business assets, as well as health and insurance needs. A true one-stop solution provider. We do not work for an insurance company. We work for you. As an independent insurance agency, our duty is to our clients' best interests. It is our responsibility to provide you the best service and the best coverage at the best possible price. You will have the added benefit of working with agents who understand your needs. After visiting our website, we will schedule an exploratory appointment to discuss your specific needs. Please visit our website at www.movementinsurance.com. That's www.movementinsurance.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. Back for another segment here. We've got two more left, and we've got a lot more to go through with our listeners here today. We're really focusing on the senior market, and we were just wrapping up here with Rob Wachter from the Wachter Group in terms of steps that he recommends in terms of preparation for seniors and how to help them navigate selling their home. Rob, you were mentioning in our step number 4 here that was really just, we may need to tap into additional service providers when you're working with the senior market. You mentioned estate sales. We talked briefly about working with Preston and his group getting a pre-inspection. Are there any other services that might come into play that would be sort of unique to working with seniors our listeners would need to know about?
Sure, and we have a stable of trusted people that we work with that we use on a regular basis, and those folks include senior move managers, who are, it's a relatively new thing that helps people plan their move and even set up their new home. Legal advisors, depending on the situation, whether there might be trusts or estates involved.
Powers of attorney,
and of course, accountants and finance people, to make sure that the decisions are being made in the wisest way for that individual.
Perfect. Well, that makes sense. And if you've got that team approach, I really think that's what you're focusing on the individual and really what they need. So cool. Let's go to the last step here so we can wrap up the selling side and get to the buying side. Last step is really action time. So what does that really mean in your words?
Well, in our words, that's the easy part, because if we've done all the things that we just talked about, action time is putting the sign in the yard, putting it on to the multiple listing service, and helping them negotiate a contract.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, by doing all this, we've hopefully brought the stress level from a 10 down to a 3 for these folks. I don't want to say we're magic. We can't make it go away. It's still a big decision. But all those things just fall into place to then help us get the best contracts with the most investment by the buyer, with the most assurance that it won't fall apart, so that they can get closed on their schedule. And that's the goal. And in fact, I'll interview clients, especially seniors after closing, just as an exercise. And I've said to folks, I said, everything's fine, it's done, nothing can change. But if I'd called you 12 hours ago and said that the buyer had walked away, how big a check would you be willing to write to change their mind? And I get fascinating answers from a few $1,000s to $25,000. And,
Wow.
and I bring that up because there's times where people are interviewing agents, or they're interviewing home inspection companies. They're trying to figure out what to do, and they want to save $50 or a 0.5%.
So, believe me, I get that in mortgage too.
Yeah,
Their credit report fee is 25, not 30.
Right. Or what about that flat fee
$5?
person?
You're
that,
$12 higher.
Exactly.
and then we realized that the cost that having bad advice could bear to the person is incredible.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
And judge by value, not price. Value.
Exactly.
Big difference there.
I think people recognize the value when you're through the process. They might not recognize it at the beginning, right? Especially once
Absolutely.
they have someone that takes good care of them. So, well, let's shift gears to the purchase side. So we're now going to focus on helping the senior buyer. Step number one, what would you say step number one is?
Well, as with the other side, step number one is determining what the buyer's needs are.
Okay.
What are they doing? Are they younger seniors who just want a smaller house, less to take care of because the kids just moved out? Are they someone that wants to move into an age-targeted community? They prefer not having kids around and being social with their friends.
Those places are cool, by the way.
They are.
There are.
I was just down in Sun City.
Yeah, I got 9 more years to go, and I can get in one.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating because people like us are actually talking about that now. Where
right.
10 or 15 years ago, people thought of senior communities as these awful things.
Yeah, no, it looks like a lot of fun, man.
There's the lap of luxury. And then there's some seniors who either want or need to be in a community connected with some healthcare components.
Sure.
They may either have an immediate medical need, or they may need to use a community like that as almost a supplement or replacement for long-term care insurance.
Right. So you really have to dissect that component up front, which definitely has some elements that are unique to the population. So, all right. So let's say you've done your job, you've determined the right needs. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is determine the financing options and how things are going to be paid for. And this is where most of the time you come in, Chris.
Yeah.
Obviously someone can pay cash for the next house. The question is that really the right thing to do? In light of the very low interest rate market today, it's often not the right thing to do. There's often many better things that they can be doing with their money. There's, of course, a traditional mortgage as an option. And there's a fascinating phenomenon in the senior community about traditional mortgages. I can't tell you how often I'll talk to someone and say, well, I would never qualify for a 30-year mortgage because I'm 70 and I'm not going to live to be 100, so the bank wouldn't loan me the money. Well, Chris, could you speak to that?
Yeah, I absolutely can. That it is, age is protected just like religion, sex, all these different things by law.
Right.
The lender cannot discriminate and make a loan decision based on somebody's age. So literally a 100-year-old senior could apply for a 30-year fixed. And as long as they had the credit and made the money and could qualify, there's absolutely no reason. Technically, the lender cannot deny that customer credit.
Sure.
So that's definitely a myth out in the world there. So.
And the third thing they could do is they could leverage the equity out of their home and use a home equity conversion purchase mortgage. And honestly, I'd probably let you speak to that a little bit more.
So we call it the what the heck'em, right? HECM is the home equity conversion mortgage. Honestly, folks, it's just a reverse mortgage. The industry sort of decided to change the name. But really, I'll take just a quick minute because I know we can go into it in detail. But the reverse mortgage is really designed for somebody that's 62 years or older. If they're staying in their existing home, then they could tap in equity and use that equity to, supplement their monthly income or take out a lump sum to do investing in a second home or whatever they want to do, but allows them to stay in their home, but also not have a mortgage payment. Because really, the loan is designed to pay the interest back. It's called a negatively amortizing loan, to pay the interest back with the remaining equity if you're in your existing home. But Rob, I'm going to shift gears a little and really talk a little bit about how it works in a purchase situation, since we're really talking about buying, right?
Absolutely.
So a lot of seniors don't realize that they can use the reverse mortgage tool to purchase the home, so that in essence, if we're looking at a $200,000 purchase, you and I have both seen seniors move back up from Florida because it was a little too stormy, a little too hot, or moving down from the north because a little too cold, a little too stormy there, right?
And if they tried both, we call them halfbacks.
Halfbacks, that's
halfway
right.
back, yep.
But they come and go, gosh, I've got $200,000 cash to work with. Can you find me a $200,000 home? And because they don't want to be burdened with a traditional mortgage payment each and every month, so they think their only option is that to pay cash. But of course they want to be near their son or daughter, close to shopping, be able to walk to the store, and have all the conveniences of an area that probably isn't going to may not have many options for $200,000 sales price. So we use a reverse mortgage as a tool, and it can increase, in some cases, their buying power, where traditionally, and this is not statistics, okay, this is not technical, because each scenario is different based on age and the sales price. But in general, most people can get away with about 50% down. So if you took that initial $200,000 you got from the sale of your home in another market, put it down on a $400,000 home, well, gosh, that's a big difference in price point in terms of buying power, right, Rob?
It can totally change the quality of their life experience in their new home.
Right. So they invest that $200,000 on a $400,000 purchase, and that money that they initially infused is set aside to pay back interest that can accrue or will accrue on that reverse mortgage over the life of that loan. They're never going to be forced out of their home. They can stay as long as they need to. There's not a payment, but of course interest will accrue, so that after their first month being in the home, they have a little bit of interest added back to that loan balance, and so forth each and every month. But they do have to be 62. They have to do some special counseling to get educated on the process by a third-party vendor, so that the mortgage lender or anyone else involved in the process is not unduly influencing that client into that loan product. So it's definitely a product for seniors to consider, definitely creates buying power, and maybe protects that nest egg that they need to preserve to pay for expenses and medical bills, and even just going on cruises and enjoying their life, right? So
absolutely, they've earned it.
It's a great product. It's not for everybody.
Kids are just going to blow it anyway.
That's right. So, but if you got questions on the HECM loan or reverse mortgage, my number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. All right, so let's go into step number 3. Which is, I think,
It's find the house and execute the contract.
That's right. Go get the house. Perfect. So whether you have financing or paying cash, you need to go get the house.
Right, and that's the easier part. A lot of it will depend on what they have qualified for, because that's when we have to help them shop. And I just want to take one step back and say that you can certainly preserve a little bit of your capital and get a nicer house with using a reverse for purchase mortgage. But we've also seen it where it was actually a tool of rescuing a senior from foreclosure.
You bring up a really good point. And I have done some of those transactions for people, and it's been pretty cool.
We had one not long ago. They were in financial difficulty. They had a $200,000 house with a $70,000 mortgage on it. Now the payment was high because that mortgage is 20 years old, and it was coming down. They could no longer make the payments. When they sold the house, they realized we don't want to go live somewhere for $120,000.
Where are we going to go?
So I said, well, if we could help you find somewhere for $200,000, would that improve your life? And the answer was dramatically. So, and by the way, you don't have to worry about making that payment again, because it solves that problem too. So it's an incredibly versatile tool, depending on what the person's needs are.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is versatile for sure. So cool. Well, I appreciate that little plug. It's a great scenario, a great situation to share. All right, so the step number 4 is really inspect and appraise, right? Preston, back to you for a home inspection.
Because he's the first people we call after the contract is executed.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do, actually, since we're kind of running out of time for the segment, maybe we could save kind of going through how different it is on the buyer side in terms of getting that home inspection in place.
Sure.
All right, so let me sort of wrap up this segment. We've got one more segment after this, but we're here with Rob Wachter from the Wachter Group and Preston Sandlin from Home Inspection Carolinas. And we've been really talking about focusing on seniors and helping them through the buying process after maybe they've sold their home. Where are they going, and how do we manage that process? And some of the components and even financing is a little bit different for that senior than would be available to the general population. So we're going to come back, talk a little bit about the home inspection process and the appraisal process, and as we continue our focus on seniors buying. And so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with another round of Reshair Radio. Hey, Chris Reshatar here from Reshair Radio with Movement Mortgage. Are you still sitting on a high interest rate mortgage loan? Are you thinking about consolidating, paying off some of those credit card debts, or maybe doing some home improvement? Now's the time to call because interest rates are still at a 40-year low. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. I can also be found at themortgagegenius.com. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender and MLS license number 117266. Welcome back to Reshair Radio. Back here for our last segment. We've been in the studio here this morning on the special Mother's Day, and we've been talking about seniors, helping them through the purchase process. That's the last segment we were wrapping up, and we're really just about rounding out the show here with this particular theme here with Rob Wachter from the Wachter Group. Rob, you were mentioning briefly about financing pieces, and then really the next step was really to have the home inspected and appraised.
Absolutely.
Preston, tell us a little bit about the home inspection process from the buyer's perspective.
Okay. Well, it's a lot of the same, but obviously we're, working for the buyer. We're coming in, we're going to check out, there's 3 mechanical systems on the house. You have the electrical, the plumbing, and electrical, plumbing, and heating and cooling on the radio. It's pretty easy. And then you have the structural component. So you're obviously checking out all these systems to make sure they're in good working order. You also, too, want to keep in mind, if this is a senior, that everything's accessible. I know a lot of patio homes are very popular. Sometimes we'll get a furnace that you have to change the filter in the attic. I'm like, you got to go up these little rickety stairs. And I'm like, wait a minute, you got a patio?
Or a little 2x2 hole in the ceiling, right?
let's why don't we get
We're
that
under the house.
yeah why don't we get that set so that we can because seniors knees and whatnot. I mean, that was hard for me to get up there, and so, but I mean, with seniors in mind and that thing. But obviously we are looking out for the buyer. I mean, and we're there to educate. We're going to come out and do the inspection and go over the inspection report at the end of the inspection, pictures on the computer, and then we generate a written report the next day. I say it's a lot like having a physical. I have a physical every year. Doctor always tells me the same thing: you're in pretty good shape for your age. But my cholesterol's a little high. Give me some marching orders, what I need to do to get that down. Same thing with a house. There's no perfect house, but we also like to tell some strong points as well. If they have a high-end train system or architectural shingles or something that's a little above the norm, we like to tell them that too. So it's just an education is what we like to do, and where all their filters are and off switches and GFCIs, and so anything that they run into, they'll know what to do.
And Preston, your inspectors do a tremendous job of communicating with the buyers, because one of the things that buyers seem to have this picture of is that the home inspection report is a list of things that the seller should fix.
Right.
Which is not necessarily the case. And I've heard a number of your inspectors say more than once that it's consistent with the age and condition of the house.
Absolutely.
And that's really what you're looking for. And I tell people that a 20-year-old house is going to be different than a
it may have a couple of
20-day-old
waves in the
house.
wood.
Yeah, it's in pretty good shape for its age. But it's the same thing. And like what you said, Bob, I kind of look at it too as like it's, you get an owner's manual for your stove, for your dishwasher, but you don't really have an owner's manual for the entire house. And I like to think of that as a little bit of what we're doing, because I know that at some point you're here, that GFCI is going to trip, and you're not going to know why don't I have any power in my, well, the home inspector told us that will happen, electrical storm, something will trip it, and the reset is here. If we ever need to cut the water off for whatever reason, we're changing a faucet, the turn off is here. So we like to give all that information. Also, something as simple as your dryer. The dryer plug, there's like 4 or 5 different plugs, so we take a picture of that before you move in, because you just go by the cord actually at Home Depot.
You got to get the right one.
Yeah, and it's just 4 screws, puts it on. But it's you don't know. And filter sizes, tell them, go ahead and here's all your filter sizes. Put that in your phone. So go buy a box of filters for each size. Just some home maintenance stuff, and just operating your home, just what you're going to do, and no surprises. I guess that's
Perfect.
what we like to do.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. So let's just mention briefly, one of them is getting the home appraised as well. And if they're doing a mortgage loan of any kind, then the lender would order that appraisal through an appraisal panel that's approved.
Sure.
And or sometimes if they're paying cash, they could still order an appraisal as well. But it's definitely an important step of the process, particularly in our market where there's a lot of competing bids. We want to make sure that the home appraises for what our senior is paying for it. So, and we would help them navigate that. So, Rob, really at the end of the day, we're kind of at step 5 here, which is buy and enjoy.
Move in and enjoy the new home.
Right?
Absolutely.
So with a team approach that you take at the Wachter Group and working with great professionals like we have here in the studio, hopefully, that senior can transition from the home that they were in into the new home or even into the facility that you've helped them find if it's a retirement community with healthcare components. So we really appreciate you bringing this theme to our show here today.
Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do is shift gears here. We've got about 6-7 minutes left here in the show, Preston.
Sure.
And I know that you brought some information on really just helping, whether you're selling or buying, ways to get a cleaner home inspection report. I would assume this really focused more on the seller in this case.
Yeah, and this is also available on our website for all the listeners. If you go down there, we've got a bunch of sheets and
Is that homeinspectioncarolina.com.
Yeah, so it's the top 10 ways to get a cleaner home inspection report. And number 1, and I'm sure Rob can chime in on this, confirm that gas, water, and electricity are turned on and the gas and the pilot lights are burning.
Sounds
That's a good
awfully
thing.
simple,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
comes up so frequently.
Yeah, well, the house will be vacant. People are trying to save some money or something. But then they get out there and, we can't inspect one of the systems or something because, there's no gas on or something. And that's going to trigger a whole bunch of problems.
Sounds
because-
simple, but it's easy to forget.
Yeah, and every time is of the essence. You got to do diligence and all this stuff. And well, they couldn't inspect the water heater or the furnace because the gas wasn't on. So now we got to reschedule. And like you said, it sounds simple, and it is simple, but it can lead to a bunch of problems. Just make sure everything's on and accessible.
Number 2 is really just make sure your pets aren't hindering the inspection.
Yes. It'd be a great time to take them over to your sister's house or your mom's or the pet thing, and remember
Doggy daycare.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Pampered paws.
I had a cat follow me into an attic one time, and then I came out and I'm like, oh God, where's the cat? And it took me 30 minutes. I could keep hearing, I'm going around the attic. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to lose this cat in the attic. Or, and Bill always tells this story about, let the neighborhood tomcat in the house, and they had a bunch of declawed kitties, and that's just not a good scene at all. So good time to put the pets up. It makes everything easier.
Number 3.
Replace burned out light bulbs. Again, sounds simple, but I can't speak for all home inspectors. I mean, we carry light bulbs and try to replace those if it's not a cathedral ceiling or something. But technically, this is going to sound so crazy, but it's what the state mandates. Everything is like refer. It's a light bulb out. But they can write it up to where it's like, well, I might need an electrician in here and to come. It's a light bulb.
Well, without the working bulb, you can't tell what the source of the problem is.
Right. I'll usually just grab one from a lamp and double check.
Throw it
and
in there
see,
and make sure it's good.
Just check all of them on the front end. Makes everything easier. Plus, Rob will probably tell you, the house shows better with all your lights on.
Absolutely.
That's right. Step 4.
Step 4 would be, test all smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Replace batteries if needed. Nothing more than a chirping. If it's chirping, guys, the battery's low. I carry batteries with me, but not all home inspectors do. But those have got to check out, and that's going to be a safety issue. So low cost, but high priority.
Got it. All right. Moving through.
Number 5, real easy one. Replace your dirty air filters. HVAC is an acronym for heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. I can't tell you how many inspections we do, and the filter's dirty. And that immediately, whether you think so or not, you immediately think, well, if the filter's dirty, what else is
not taken care of?
Exactly. And you know what? Not only change the filter, but change that clean that little grate thing, the little with the fins.
The vent, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times what happens...
The air intake vent.
Yeah, at one point or another, you let it go too long. The filter's clean, but that thing's dirty and it looks dirty. Just clean it all. I mean,
Will a vacuum solve that problem?
Yeah, take your little attachment off there. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Rob.
Step number 6 really is just move any wood stored, any sort of debris from under the deck or around the house.
Especially the deck. Well, crawl space too, but a lot of times people put firewood underneath the house, and if wood sits on the ground, give it long enough, it'll get termites.
That's just food.
Yeah, and if they get into that, even if it's under a deck, that triggers a treatment. The deck underneath the deck, according to the state, is considered part of the crawl space. It'll trigger a whole treatment for the house, which is, it's not like ants or roaches. It's, probably upwards of $1,000 or more.
Perfect. We got a few minutes left here. Number 7.
Unlock and remove locks from any items the inspector must access: gates, fences, attic access doors, hatches, electrical service panels. That's
sheds.
A big one. Yes, sheds, crawl space hatches. Because we have to get into the crawl space. We have to get into the panel box, and it's just going to be like we were talking before. If your gas wasn't on, we got to come back and do it
it's
again.
just going to cost more.
When I was younger, I used to carry bolt cutters, but somebody got mad at me.
Yeah, maybe not.
Scene, but
Number 8.
I saved him a favor. I'm like, that thing costs like $8, and you know how much it cost me to come back out here? But they didn't see it that way. Number 8, confirm areas and components are accessible by removing items and that are blocking access to service panels, heating, air conditioning equipment, water heaters, the GFCI, outlets.
Yeah,
outlet
we'll
codes.
see a lot of times like stuff in the garage that is blocking the electrical access.
Oh yeah,
boxes.
Well, and something will trip it. You can hear it trip, and now all of a sudden, and they've got a freezer full of meat. So now there's no power to that. You're like,
you can't get
man,
to it.
Where is you don't even know where it is. It's behind one of the shelves, and you're
Right.
like, and of course, it's like a couple $100 worth of meat in there. You've got to find it. So you're taking off paint and stuff until you find that reset. You should have access to it.
Preston,
All
I've
right.
seen this a couple times.
I'm
Cars,
going to
too.
jump in here real quick.
yeah.
So we only got about a
Definitely.
minute left. So let's get to 9 and number 10.
Trim tree limbs away from the roof covering, trim shrubs away from the exterior walls below the access. We've got to get to the bottom of the walls inside and out, look for termite tubes and cracks and that sort of thing. So got to trim the shrub. And you shouldn't have any tree branches touching your house or, that's just a problem anyway, not just for selling
that's
your
not
house.
smart.
Yeah, exactly.
And number 10.
Repair and replace broken or damaged missing items, doorknobs, windows, screens. We talked about smoke detectors, light bulbs, anti-siphon devices. You need these on your exterior hoses. They're just so that, like, if you ran water into something, that it couldn't back siphon into it and pollute the water supply. It's just a little thing that fits. They're inexpensive.
Interesting.
You need to put those on your faucets because that's a write-up on almost every home inspection report. Make sure your downspouts and your gutters are clean, and chimney flue caps. Make sure they're not cracked or you don't have a whole big creosote buildup or anything like that.
Awesome. I know we did that quick. I appreciate it. Just want to make sure we
no
get in
problem.
before we have to wrap up our show here. Preston, they can get a hold of you at what number?
704-542-6575.
And go to homeinspectioncarolinas.com if you need Preston services. Rob, thank you for being on the show. This is the first time you've been on with us. Do you
Yes,
have a
thank
quick
you.
offer you want to mention to our listeners?
Absolutely. I want to extend an offer to anyone listening to this show that one of our listing specialists would be happy to come out to your home and prepare one of our free comprehensive market value reports so that you can begin to assess and plan in your life what your house might be worth, what it might take to maximize its value down the road when you're ready to sell.
Awesome. And I want to tack on that if they go with Rob, either way, pre-listing or buyers, we'll do $35 off the home inspection if you go with Rob's team.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Preston.
Appreciate your generosity, both of you. It's been great having you on the show. Just real quick, if anything you've heard today you want to get more information on, you can text me. Chris, I need help. I have questions. I need Rob. I need Preston or me. 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. We're signing off for another great show of Reshair Radio. We'll see you next Sunday, and happy Mother's Day, moms.
Sports fans know that the key to winning the big game is going in prepared. Right now, houses are selling fast. So if you're in the market for a new home purchase, don't just be prepared, be Movement Mortgage prepared. Charlotte's leading mortgage lender, Chris Reshatar at Movement Mortgage will tee you up with a free, fully underwritten, upfront pre-approval. Shop for the home of your dreams, already backed by an upfront pre-approval at Movement Mortgage. Call Chris today at 704-277-4463 or find Chris at www.themortgagegenius.com. Go into the game prepared with Chris Reshatar of Movement Mortgage.
This is Chris Reshatar, your host of Reshair Radio. As a mortgage professional, we interact with several industry-related professionals, and we see the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I have a choice to select a closing attorney either to purchase or do a refinance, I choose John Ringer with Hutchins Law Firm. He is a legal professional and he covers commercial and residential transactions. More than just a closing attorney, John wants to be your attorney for life. He can provide you insights you need to make accurate and informed legal decisions. As a Charlotte native, John has witnessed the tremendous growth and development of our city and region. As a part of Hutchins Law Firm with more than a quarter century of experience and 400 years of collective combined legal experience, they have what you're looking for. They have offices in Charlotte, Fayetteville, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. Please give John a call if you need an attorney, the right attorney, at 980-275-9810. That's 980-275-9810.
You've been listening to Reshair with Chris Reshatar, a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with Movement Mortgage, equal housing lender. Originator license number 117266. Learn more online at themortgagegenius.com.